Good morning to you guys. Welcome, Sunrisers. Thank you so much for being here with us on a brand new month, a brand new day. It's a Monday morning, back to school morning for so many of our young ones and even our mature ones too. And so to all the students, all the teachers, all the parents, we're wishing for you a wonderful school year. May all your dreams come true. Understand that education is a partnership between parent, teacher, and student, and we all have our roles to play. And of course, to the supporting cast, to Dennis.
Absolutely.
So the uncles, the aunties, the grandmas.
The people who make it work.
Yeah, the godmothers, right? The neighbors.
The community.
Please, let us protect our children this school year and guide them accordingly, all right?
The taximan them drive properly and take care of the people them picnic.
Yes, absolutely. And busman too. All right. So good job. Now every vote counts, and we know, Dennis, we're on the cusp of election day. September 3 is just around the corner. And when I say just around, I mean literally, right?
Literally.
Like literally. It's Wednesday, this Wednesday, September 3.
Oh, you know what that means? We are on the point now where campaigning must cease.
Yes, yes.
48 hours, there should be no campaigning.
That's why the JLP had their final rally in Spanish Town, I think, last night.
Yes.
And the
PNP had theirs
in Montego Bay, Sam Sharp Square. Let me tell you, hey, River come down. So that was the last of that. But guys, every vote counts, and we've been saying this, right? And it's everyone's right on election day to vote, and the goal is simple: no Jamaican left behind. That includes our vulnerable voters, our brothers and sisters in the blind and deaf communities, and anyone who may need extra support to their, at their polling stations to help them to make the process easier. And joining us this morning to explain the accommodations in place for the persons who are differently abled in these communities is the Public Relations and Communications Manager at the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, Dania Harper. Good morning, Dania.
Morning,
Welcome
Dania.
to Sunrise. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well, thank you.
Beautiful. Now, Dania, when you talk about persons who are differently abled and the accommodations that are being made at the Electoral Commission for them, to whom are you referring and what accommodations are these?
Well, we are referring to those persons who are members of the community of persons with disabilities, and also to persons who may be elderly and may need a special support, as you said, accessing the polling stations on election day.
Okay, so I mean, depending on the special needs that an individual might have, because that special needs don't preclude you from voting. Depending on the special needs, they might need different kinds of assistance. Let's begin with something like someone who might need wheelchair access. Let's begin there. What sort of facilities are there in place for that?
Sure. Okay. Let's look at persons who may use a wheelchair, right? And it's not just persons who may have a disability, but it also covers persons who may be elderly, right? Okay. And those persons may need to have access to a polling station. So one of the first things is that the Electoral Commission of Jamaica has a policy now that says that in keeping with the Disabilities Act, there should be accessibility to polling stations for all eligible electors. Now, in the past, we've had several of our polling stations on the upper level, and we realize the challenges that have been faced. So we have moved now to ensure that whenever we're seeking polling stations and also relocating some of our stations, that just about 98% of our polling stations are now on the ground level. So just a few stations are on the upper level. And of course, that is because of the challenges with finding available locations to have these polling stations, but we are moving toward 100%. Now, for those polling stations where they're accessed by stairs or otherwise make it difficult for persons with using a wheelchair to access them, if those persons are unable to get assistance with going up the stairs, so certainly in specific cases, we can have the polling station come to those persons. So we do know that there may be difficulties, places may not have the available ramps, So we are happy when there can be support for those persons to get to those stations.
And the wheelchair access, and then that would, I guess, also include persons who are amputees, so persons who, you know, use a crutch or a walker for that matter. Regarding persons who are blind, Dania, what is that process like? What do they need to do? I mean, is the ballot paper written braille? How would they know how to, you know, vote, and how, you know, to make it private too? And what, should they bring somebody with them, or is it that the Electoral Commission has put some braille in place so they don't need anybody to walk with them?
Well, we don't have braille on the ballot papers currently. However, the law does provide for assistance for certain categories of persons with disabilities. So if you are an elector who is blind, or you have some kind of disability that prevents you from marking your ballot without support, you are entitled to assistance to vote on election day. That assistance being that you can either take a friend with you, and that friend will mark the ballot on your behalf. So you, the elector, and your friend would go behind the voting booth, and your friend would mark that X for you based on the instructions that you give to your friend. Or the elector can have the presiding officer mark the ballot on his or her behalf. However, that would be done in the presence of the persons in that polling station to ensure that there is legitimacy in the marking of that ballot. So for those categories of persons who are unable for whatever reasons to physically mark that X, there is provision for assistance for you.
Members of the deaf community have been in the news recently in terms of providing adequate access for them to engage in the national leadership debates. In relation to their accessibility, their challenges are not the same, but in terms of communicating with them do those facilities exist when they get to the polling station, if they have questions to ask, for instance?
Okay, well, you know, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because we do recognize the challenges also, and the fact that the law does not have specific provisions for the deaf persons. But the Electoral Commission of Jamaica has been having consultations with different groups who represent persons with disabilities to see how best we can facilitate and to assist those persons. We do realize that one of the challenges for persons who are deaf is finding their polling station, and when they get to the location, how to get to the actual area. And we have had consultation. We have had those persons make presentations to our returning officer to see how best in the future we can assist those persons. However, in the interim, what we have done to, you know, try to address some of those challenges is to engage an interpreter and to have some of those questions answered for persons in the deaf community. So, you know, starting today on our social media pages at EC Jamaica, you know, those persons will be able to access that information in sign language, in Jamaican Sign Language, to better help them through the process on election day. So we know that our presiding officers are not trained in Jamaican Sign Language, but we do find creative ways to communicate with those persons. And we do feel that once we have that information to them before they go to the polling station, it would be so much easier. So starting today, they can definitely go and see some of those, the information that they would like, and some of those questions will be answered gradually being posted today on our social media pages.
Excellent.
Let me just finally ask you, Dania, for persons, what time does voting begin, and will those persons with special needs be accommodated? So, for example, I know that the stations can get very packed. Is there like a line to expedite, you know, getting them through, that kind of thing? What time should they come out?
Well, voting begins at 7 a.m. and ends at 5 p.m. So, of course, voting happens right throughout the day. You know, there's no lunchtime or no lunch break where you can't come and vote. You vote right throughout the day from 7 to 5. And what we do find a lot of the times is that in the morning at 7, everybody tries to come out to vote early. Right? And then you have the long lines in the morning. But we encourage persons, you know, try to spread it out throughout the day and come to your polling station. Now, for persons with disabilities and, you know, of course, vulnerable persons, there is, of course, the opportunity to have priority access. Those persons can speak with a supervisor who is on the location to express their need, and we can make those accommodations.
And anything but an X, Dania, on those ballot papers, or what does that mean? Because some people, I've heard telling people to put a circle to suggest their
X mean
disapproval.
wrong bang, so
right?
put a tick.
So yeah, or put a tick or a circle or a draw something in a stick man. If you put anything else but the X, Dania, what are the implications of, what is the implication there?
Well,
I mean, we've said it, but I want to hear it from you.
Or if you use anything except the pencil that is provided. So if you write a tick, or if you write your name, if you write anything other than that X, or even if you write more than one X, it means that your ballot paper would be rejected and it cannot be counted for any of the candidates.
Okay, so if you put a 0, so if you disapprove of a particular person, but they just stand a yard then. You understand? But I go put, because in any event, if you put a 0, if you put a O, if you put a Y, if you put a Z, Dania says, and she's a public relations communications officer, it's going to be counted. It's not going to be counted. It's spoiled. Okay? Yeah. So no matter waste your bus fare, girl.
All right.
Stay warm. Stay
Just put the right thing.
Yeah, put the X with the pencil provided.
That is right.
All right, Dania, thank you so much to you and your team. All the best.
All right. Dania Harper is the Public Relations and Communications Manager at the Electoral Commission of Jamaica. Thank you for that conversation on who can vote and how they will do it. But after the break, we're going to be following the money trail with Carlton Stewart. He joins us for a lesson on how elections are funded. It's Money Masterclass, and it's brought to you by Guardian Life. We'll be right back.